Thank you very much for inviting me. Uh, my experience as a journalist with the United Nations goes back as a reporter going with the Prime Minister during the Prime Minister's customary UNGA addressing. It started with Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. And if we look at the Government of India policy documents from the days of the Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao to the days of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we find that demands remain the same. And we see that little progress has really happened at the ground level. Therefore, if you do a dispassionate compilation of what Government of India has been saying, because when Prime Minister Narasimha Rao made his first set of recommendations, it was the first meeting by the Prime Minister of India after the collapse of Soviet Union, after the end of Cold War, and we thought that the beginning of a new world order, and with India opening up, and we would see some sort of a rapid growth. But unfortunately, in one area where we don't see any rapid growth, but systematic stalling is in this multilateral forum. And we don't know the specific areas, but what is very, very clear is that the very structural arrangement of being a privileged club and not permitting others to becoming the member of this new club, is a entrenched issue about which very little can be done. The thing is, the members of the P5, whatever be their ideological position, are not willing to give up their privilege or to extend the same privilege to the new members. If we look at the question of India's membership, the one area which keeps coming up is, do India has a right to have veto like the other five? And generally, once the question of the veto comes in, we also find the way some of the countries are expressing their reservation. So the idea of the international body being a privileged club where the early entrants have their entrance positions and the late entrants have been kept at bay, this situation hasn't been subjected to a serious change over the last 30 years at least. There is one element is that the texts are always progressive. If you look at the text for the reforms, almost all the texts are extremely progressive and inclusive, but none of these texts have been implemented. Therefore, there is this gap between the pronounced statements and what we actually do. What can we do to see that our action actually matches the statements? That is the key issue. Whether it is a universal declaration of human rights or the other principles which have been enshrined in the charter, what we see is a big gap between the stated principles and the way it is getting implemented. Unless and otherwise we recognize that there is a gap between the stated principles and the way the stated principles are being implemented, I don't think we are going to make progress. And for this, we need a dispassionate evaluation of the places where there's a gap between the stated position and the implementation aspect. Professor Ananthakrishnan spoke about the gap between International Court of Justice's directives not being implemented. That is one area where I think we have to be very, very clear that the implementational process are so weak, and there is a very particular twist which keeps coming in. At what moment it becomes an interference, and at what moment it is a legitimate pressure to do the right thing. Unless and otherwise we are able to make this distinction, that is, what is the right intervention? Because this complete non-intervention and multilateralism doesn't go hand in hand. Multilateralism at some level is a higher principle called interdependence. And in interdependence, you actually take and give. Therefore, the moment we agree that it's a multilateralism and there is an element of take and give, where are we going to stop using this word of interference? That is the key question, and for which, unfortunately, most of the foreign policy experts, at least in South Asia, have come up with a real balance. There seems to be an ultra nationalistic reading when there is a critical observation about India, and we do want a critical observation about the people with whom we are not comfortable with. But this question of what is a legitimate intervention, what is intervention, and what is overbearing or what is overreach, these are the issues which has to be first internally settled, and based on those issues, we have to take the issue up, and I think we can talk about it in the next round of the discussion. But these are the issues which I want to flag, because as a journalist, from the days of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, what we are witnessing is that we are coming up with a series of ideas which we want to realize, but none of them are realized. Thank you very much.